Hello there, and welcome to the Archive in Between, where I read stories collected from across the dimensions. Take a subscription so you can find me again if you wander off. Today's story is called All Is Not Entirely Quiet on the Western Front by ApocalypseOwl on Reddit. Humanity never advocated war. It was a rule that whenever an even mildly militaristic motion was put to the vote, the human representatives would always, and without fail, vote no. Always they advocated alternative solutions, finding compromises, seeking peaceful conflict resolution. We didn't mind the snickering about our cowardice. We didn't mind the insinuations by the more aggressive and hawkish wings in the Senate of the Galactic Systems Union. But as more aggressive races got in, we found ourselves increasingly under the scrutiny of those who believed war to be grand and glorious. In every single hearing, debate, and vote, we were being challenged. Challenged by those who believed war to be a grand and glorious chance to prove oneself. Those who charged with glee into the lines of the enemy. Those who held personal honor in higher regards than peace and reason. And after years of being slighted and talked down to by those factions, finally, somebody asked the question, and it was the straw that broke the camel's back. Senator Istorxa of the Hirgrel, a race that looks vaguely avian, stood up and asked, directly to the human delegates, "What are you so damn afraid of, anyway? Why are you cowards so set against going to war?" Most had expected us to ask for the senator to respect the tone policy of the Senate, but I stood up. "All right. So you want to know just why we're so against war? Well, let me show you. Anyone who is interested in knowing why mankind always stands against war can meet me in the senatorial hologram stadium after the debate is over." Both me and the other senator were reprimanded by the High Speaker and told to sit down and be quiet. But I still went, and a good number of other senators, interested parties, minority race representatives, random spectators, and others had arrived. "All right, Senator Garcia, show me why you're against war," Senator Istorxa said smugly. They were probably expecting me to talk about the value of life, the importance of peace for commerce. Instead, I initialized an old third-party program from the Terran Authority's historical hologram offices. "You asked why we humans are so against going to war, right? Welcome to the Western Front." Around us, the stadium changed. Instead of the beautiful Fratu gardens that act as the standard hologram in the stadium, it was dark, and we were in the trenches. Most of you don't look back at the history of other races. Those who do usually don't look into details, just skim the most important political facts. You don't go into the grime and the detail, but this is human history. The meat grinder that made humanity hate war. The senators and spectators looked with unbelieving shock at what they were seeing. Hundreds, thousands of humans fighting in a war unlike anything they'd ever seen. Humans torn apart by explosions, holographic limbs flying around them. 4 years on this front. 4 years. But simply watching isn't enough. This is an interactive holographic simulation. As I said this, the various alien delegates were outfitted with suitable French uniforms and period weapons. Holographic officers ordered us to prepare to charge. One of the spectators refused and was promptly executed by a particularly psychotic-looking French officer. Of course, they hadn't actually died, but the simulation could be quite convincing. This is the Battle of Verdun. 302 days, 1 million dead. And the front didn't move much. Best part is that it didn't shorten the war. It kept going for another 2 years. I helpfully explained to the confused aliens who had volunteered to have the pacifism of mankind explained. And then we charged. Not really much to say about that. Running across no man's land, seeing your company torn apart by machine gun fire. The aliens had always obeyed orders in a war, so they didn't desert, didn't stop, didn't quit fighting. Yet we kept charging until we reached the Germans' lines, and fought hand to hand, firing rifles in the cold spring air, filled with the smell of smoke, bloody iron, and dying soldiers. Of course, as the Germans retreated from their trenches, I heard the telltale sound of gas canisters, and could distinctly smell mustard. Not a good way to die. With that, the simulation ended. Around me, I saw the spectators, huddled and weeping, confused and scared. I walked over to the Hirgrel senator and grasped their fine clothes, hauling them to their feet. This, Senator, is why humanity is against war. Because you think that war is a game. Because you don't fight actual wars, merely spectacle. But we know that if we don't prevent war from growing within the galactic community, eventually we'll be dragged into one, and we will win. I dropped the senator, who vomited out their beak. We will win, because we aren't afraid of war because we're cowards. We are not afraid of war because we are scared of dying. We are afraid of war because we're better at it, and more psychotic at it than you will ever be. Because that war, you only saw a brief moment. You didn't sit for days getting bombarded. You didn't feel your feet rot in the damp trenches. You didn't see all your friends die around you and realize that you're the last one left. I disengaged the program from the simulator and brought back the serene temple gardens. 20 million humans died in that war. More if we count those wars and revolutions that came from its end. We called it the War to End All Wars. The alien senator got to their feet on their own power. So, you fought a war so destructive that you dare not fight any more wars since then? I grinned and handed him a book called The History of the World Wars. No, my good colleague. 20 years after we ended that war, the war that we called the Great War, the war to end all wars, we had another one. And it was more bloody, more destructive, more terrible. And 100 million humans died in that one. It only ended when we eradicated 2 major cities with atomic weaponry. If we hadn't done that, the casualties would have been 110 million. I walked away as the alien senator looked with fear in their eyes at me. Fear against the humans, because we advocate peace, for we are the best at fighting wars. Because all human war is total war. It is our curse, and we wish never again to send our sons and daughters off to kill like we killed before. After all, we know that if we start again, if we fight another war, it will end with either our destruction or with our total conquest of the galaxy. Thanks for stopping by and listening to the story. Take a subscription. It'll lead you back if you get lost, and it'll let you know when I'm ready to read again. I look forward to seeing you here again.